Kush Sovereignty, Black Righteousness. By L. James Bolin. Chapter 4, History Lesson. Big Ma heard Kush and walked towards the door unnoticed, and listened in a Kush finished. She started to cry, Kush, that was so beautiful. Kush smiled, thanks Big Ma. Samuel sat there with a tear falling from his eye and a deep lump in his throat. What is the title? You should have led off with the title first. Kush said, Dan Daddy, you told me to write and write from the hat, I didn't know about no title. I guess, God is like your grandfather. After wiping the tear from his eye, Samuel said, well, you wrote it. You'll come up with a title latte. He loved it. And you got the gift, so, you can only get better with time. Kush was excited and started blushing. Thanks, Dan. Daddy. The room was quiet for a few seconds, then Kush said, Dan Daddy, I saw Gemini this morning. He seemed to know what I'm saying. Samuel no he said, he does. The approval from his grandfather, or maybe it was a coffee kicking in, but Kush became filled with so many questions, why you call him Gemini? Samuel raised his eyebrows, well, so, he was born on my birthday, May 25, which falls within the zodiac sign of Gemini. Now I'm not too keen on astrology. You can ask your grandmother about that. The way they explain it to me is that if you're looking down on the Torah, the word you see are the star and everything beneath the word in white, is the universe. And we are living in a galaxy somewhere in that universe. And that is how Sabaoth sees us as well. When you were born, the sun, moon and star aligned in such a way that it gives you your personality or something like that. Samuel waved his hand in the air, again, you're going to have to ask both of your grandmother, they the ones that can talk to plan and stuff like that, they can explain it way better than me. Let me finish listening to my recording, and we can finish where he left off. Yesterday. Amant avid listener of with teacher, new and old prophet, and just the truth like that of Friedrich, Daniel, and one of my favorite was Prophetess Akela Malik. You see, wisdom allows you to hear the same message over and get something different out of it every time you listen to it. Then Samuel turned toward Billy, Billy. Impose the recording he was listening to earlier. Billy replied, sur. A few seconds later. This month of August, celebrating my Black Indigenous Native American root and heritage. While my hat goes out to the victim of the catastrophic flooding in Kentucky, it must be remembered and is seldom mentioned that these were all land that were occupied by and the birthright of Native Americans. We were here. We were first. These lands were taken from my ancestors by European colonizers. The state of Kentucky derives its name from an Iroquois word, Kentachten, which has several meanings. One of these is the River of Blood, which describes the present flooding situation. Rivers of water flow through the land. Half of your states in the USA have names that are indigenous in origins. The colonizers named some out of deriving from the knowledge that these lands were taken from their original people, many of whom were driven off of it, and other because native dominated the region and preserved their heritage in the names. It is the belief of indigenous people the world over that for every act of injustice and inequality, and there will be a reckoning. What is sent out will return in like measure it was given as Yeshua the Messiah made clear, with whatever measure you meet, it will be measured back again. Or what Imhotep the Egyptian sage said, what goes around, comes back. With that in mind, he give you a declaration of sovereignty, honoring the aboriginal people of Earth. As honorary Queen Mother, ordain a prophet and priest of the one most high and inspired messenger of the only true and living and sovereign creator, Elohe, he make this declaration on behalf of the global nation of aboriginal indigenous people of the earth. We are the first to establish human footprint upon the earth, and the first to seed it with life. As such, we declare our right to live as independent sovereign nation upon the earth which is our inheritance given by the creator. A right of inheritance institutionalized in the Constitution of the United States as well as its Declaration of Independence, and validated by one of its so-called founding fathers, President Thomas Jefferson. Who showed the universal dictum that these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal. Endowed by their creator with certain rights inalienable, that is, these cannot be circumvented by man nor taken away by them. Although these rights have been trampled upon and violated by those who both invaded, colonized and oppressed those of US who are the original people of the earth. Through globalized colonization and economic depression attempt was made through a divide and conquer strategy to redefine our status as the first people of the earth, the aboriginal indigenous tribe of the planet. A universal tribe created in the image of Elohim, the sovereign creator was ancient laws granted US dominion over the planet, are recorded in the book of beginning. The divide and conquer strategy was predicated and successfully implemented through attack defining who we were by where we were. He asked, does a bird cease to be a bird because you take it out of the jungle and put it in a cage? No, the bird is not defined by its cage but by its phenotype. Archéologie and geography define where, we, are. But genetic and genealogy define who, we, are. And our spirituality define what, we, are. And what WEAREISFRE and independent man ben created in the image of a sovereign creator, as acknowledged by Jefferson, one of several framers of the Constitution of the United States of America, this edict recognized as a supreme law of the land. This land being ours by right of preeminent birth and inheritance. As such we declare our right to exist upon this earth as independent sovereign human beings, who are planetary citizens. This is not only our universal right but a sacred one. Samuel shook his head, he took it was some more left, anyway, that was Prophetess Akela Malik, one of my favorite. Taking a deep breath, powerful. Now, let's see, where did he stop yesterday, pausing for a moment, oh, yeah. This is the power of story begin in Lake Providence. Come to think of it. He haven't been too many places that haven't been alongside Highway 65. Now, he have been a far south as waterproof Louisiana, and a far north à Chico, Arkansas, where me and your grandmother got married. East? Et posed again thinking. Well, my grandfather lived in Indianola, Mississippi. I've been there quite a few times, especially when he was younger. So that's about it. As far as the west, he haven't gone any farther than Delhi, Louisiana. Ole Louisiana. Did you know we are the only place that is parish instead of county? Even to this day, you must understand the history. But for now, we are going to just focus on this town called Lake Providence to understand a man named Wanyenyekevu, a young warrior. You see, the alien technology affected many of the cities along the east and west coast, but Louisiana and Mississippi were some of the few places hardly touched by this new world of technology created by these Abonians. In Louisiana, places like New Orleans, Shreveport and Baton Rouge turned into metro or ville de bulle, which means in our native tongue bubble cities. In Mississippi, we only have Jackson and Gulfport. ILL use the word Wakatilian from now on because some of these people are not of our tribe, but are still considered Wakatilian. Kush shook his head, okay. Samuel continued, the Wakatilian mostly lived in this type of rural area. I guess it started when the Europeans settled Lake Providence and surrounding area in the late 1830s. On the federal government started enforcing the indigenous people, they called native. Furte west of the Mississippi River and took their land. They drained the cypress swamp along the Mississippi River and thus lave to clear the land for cultivation. By the mid-1800s, Louisiana was so ruthlessly hard back then that they jailed our people for no reason at all. Even our women were used in the same cells as malprisonnés, and some became pregnant willingly and many unwillingly. Of course, they passed laws declaring that all children born in the prison of our people serving life sentence would be the state's property. The women would raise the kid until the age of 10, then auctioned off and the proceeds were used to fund schools for white children. Do you know who purchased this kid? Mostly prison official of course. Kush looked up and saw a tear fall from Samuel's eyes. Samuel paused as he wiped the tear from his eyes, then took alongside as he continued, anyway, by the start of the American Civil War, the region mainly consisted of large cotton plantations along the river, which were worked by millions of slave laborers. Lake Providence quickly developed after the Union Army came and built itself as a supply depot. The soldiers started digging a canal between the Mississippi River and Lake Providence. This was a sometimes slave crowded into the camp at Lake Providence, thinking they were about to get their freedom. The population quickly went from a few cent to several mil. A military supply can quickly turned into a city of slave refugee. They historically developed Lake Providence into cotton plantation before and after the Civil War. By the late 1800s, trade became famous because of the Mississippi River. Longboatmen eventually were replaced by the steamboat transported animal pelt, indigo and of course, cotton, on the Mississippi River. Making Lake Providence a significant trading town. The carpetbagger or scalawag, a they were called, were greedy and heartlemen who took advantage of the situation because there was a long line of abandoned plantation list by the military. They needed, no, they wanted free labor, slave. These scalawag were nothing more than root overseer. They said the most negligent planté had shown more respect for their slave than these men. I'm going to say this and continue because I don't enjoy thinking about this and you can read about that on your own. But slave that were too old, sick or too young were weeded out and sent to Federal contraband village in Camp along the river. This village included Willman, Transylvania, Omega, Ashley, and lastly here in Tallulah. And Highway 65 was born. Pausing for a minute, et continued. Oh, he will also say that they charged the slave up to 5 times the actual value of things. Slaves were always told that the master owed them nothing by the end of the year, but they actually owed him money, and they would often boast about their deception. So, we were always in debt, and many felt they could never get out from under them. So, our people were mentally, physically, and financially slave, and they held us back for centuries. Anywho, one of these plantations was a replantation. This is where one of our descendants was a slave, Willis Reynolds, Sir. We know very little of his birth or death. But according to the 1880 census of a replantation, Willis and Kate were born in 1854. His parents were from Virginia, and her parents were from Florida. It was a common practice to take our people's babies at or near birth so their parents weren't able to teach them who they were. But that is another story for later. Willis and Kate, at that time, only had 4 kids. Sims, William, Samuel, and Rebecca. However, they had 5 more who came along later: Grant, Leona, Albert, Belle, and Sue. They had names from their former slave owners. In their case, it was Reynolds. As a matter of fact, everyone had surname or government names back then, and clans were not adopted again until the Habonian came on the scene. Education was poor back then, most never saw the 6th grade. His son, Samor Samuel Reynolds, was born in 1875 à la Sharecropping but died a freeman right here in Tallulah. In 1985, they named me after him. Sam Reynolds. Marié Sherry Relic on March 8, 1920, in Chico, Arkansas. She was born in 1902 and died in 1998, even her last name was spelt more than one way, like Reddick and Relic, and they had 5 boys: Sam Jr. Willis, Clifton, James, and John. They had 5 girls: Elizabeth, Cecily, John's twin sister, Coralie, Legacy, and the baby girl, or descend, Mary Reynolds. Sherry's mother was Maria Johnson, and her parents were Tom and Violet Johnson, both born in Lake Providence. Tom and Violet had 2 other children named Susan and Henry. Little is known of Sherry's father other than he died in Mississippi. There are speculations that his name might have been Ben, Benny, or Mac and he lived in Bolivar County, Mississippi. But her mother, Maria, remarried Silas Diggs, Sir, and they had Willie, Isaiah, Ezekiah, Elizabeth, Lizzie, Silas Jr. And Wesley. These are your ancestors from your mother's side of the family. On your father's side, it's a little confusing, but there is more information because they were mostly Anakatas, but this is what I know. Samuel took a deep breath. Okay, John Bolin was born in 1787 and married Miranda Shaddick. Their children were Arthur, James, Ezekiel, Cecilia, Rebecca, Sarah, Susanna, and William. James Bolin, or descendant, married Francis Pitt and their children were two, but to was named Tovan and his nickname was TV, so it was Tovan, Marianne, Sarah, William Harrison, John, Francis, and Laura. Samuel paused for a moment. I'm not even halfway through, but you can read it yourself. Passing in my book. Kush smiled. Now, Dan Daddy, I like it when you read it to me. Samuel gave him a look, well, okay. Most of the people he mentioned lived in Natchez, Roxy, and Amite, Mississippi, except when William came to Tallulah with his son. It might have been racially motivated because of Toe's son William, who was named after his brother. William Harrison, who died. Scratching his head, he told you it was confusing. You know what it might have been William's son Albert, who marié à Wakatilian and created a rift in the family. He don't know it might have been the both of them because William and Albert, both, lived right here in Tallulah. I'm just guessing about that part, do you know no one came to visit him but his brother James, who himself moved to Jackson, Mississippi, after war. Anyway, to Vanessa's son, William marié Lizzie, she died right up the street in Thomastown in 1949, but her children were Leona, John, James, Sam, or descendant, Albert, and Léon Bolin. That is as far as I'm going, but I will say when to Bolin was born in 1832 and his son William was born in Natchez, Mississippi, around 1868 and eventually moved to Roxy, Mississippi, around the time of the Deviles. Spunball. Kush looked at Samuel, Deviles spunball. What is a Deviles spunball? Well, the Irish were often used as overseer, especially in the South, and many said after the horrific event was known the Deviles spunball. Kush said, Ireland. Samuel said, yes, but that is another history lesson. Let's just say it's a descent of Chi on her father's side of the family for now. Anyway, let's see, okay. Albert Bolin. Oh shit. I'm trying to follow this thing, hold all those questions for now. Samuel posed as a try to remember where he left off. Now, he got it. Most of them Bolins were brought during the Great Irish Invasion of 1840. I'm just going to start with William. You can ask Kakawaya about TV, and he'll call William, Will, from now on. Kushuk he said, okay, he'll ask Mama Leon and Big Ma about talking to Plan and about these two, when he get a chance, as Samuel continued, great. Now, Will was a just man and was reminded of the mistreat of his people and the many problem in Ireland and, when they became overseer, some of them couldn't stomach a mistreat of Wakatilian. It reminded them of what their people had escaped from, so they left. Moving from Natchez, Mississippi, they quickly made their way to Roxy, Mississippi. There is so much missing on your father's side of the family because the fire in 1920 destroyed a censure report, but you can ask your father, he knows more than he do. He did some research and found out this information. I'm about to tell you. He know that not long after slavery, two of the Bolin brothers, Albert and James, whom they called Jim, got into the limbe business, a very lucrative business in Louisiana during this time. He know that the limbe business was growing so fast that Will and his family moved here to Tallulah. James and his brother, Albert, heard of a new limbe mill built just 82 miles north of them in Tallulah, so they convinced their father and packed their bag. Not long after arriving there, Albert fell madly in love with a young lady named Catherine Wilson from Camac, Louisiana. James was furious, not because he hated Wakatilian but because he feared for his brother's life, for this was a time when Anakatas couldn't marry Wakatilian. You can rape them, and abuse them but not fall in love with them. Albert's skin was white, so he was white, if they had known he was Irish, they wouldn't have a problem with it. They shot first, then ask question latte back then. He posed, it's about DNA and not skin color now, so happen, that some DNA contain that some color. I was saying, out of frustration, Ole James moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and Albert stayed here and boosted up 99 acre of land, moving into a farm in the middle of Tallulah away from the public eye and married Catherine. They had 12 children. Samuel held up his finger as he counted. 6 boys, David, Albert Jr. Doyal, Willie, Johnny, and Jimmy, and 6 girls, Thelma, Bertha, Geraldine, Catherine, Marie Sue, and Albertine Bolin. Remember, they didn't have tribe or clan back then, but since they weren't slave, they broke their last names with them from Ireland. Samuel took a long deep sigh as he leaned back. Ooh. As years passed, Albert's son, Willie, and Sam Reynolds the doctor, Mary, got married. And had 3 children, Willie Jr. There goes another one. Damn, was there any other names than Will, William, and Willie back then? Shouted Samuel. On top of that, Billy short for William. As they started logging, et continued. Anyway, they also had a doctor named Annette and a son named Larry. Mary Latte married and had 3 more doctors with Melvin Harrison. Melinda, Darlene, and Tammy. Larry married Deck, and they had Justine had a Janie during the race war of 2025. Kush interrupted, oh, I know this part. A Janie had Alenia had Namito had Kisoma had Bandil had Bokamozo. Samuel Smiled a Kush continued. Chetan had Magie had Atayan had Elun. Samuel stopped him. No Telun, Buelan, Endelan had Etu had Anu had Emfo had Lubanzi. Together Samuel and Kush finished the family tree, but Kush stop at Esbu Samuel helped him, as at Tabitha and Tabitha had Liberté, whose name was changed by Sabaoth too. Wanyénye que vu. It impressed Samuel how Kush could recite the family tree at his age, very good, just to be 10 years old. Samuel told Kush. But those times have been long gone, and it has been over a 200 years, and Lake Providence hasn't changed that much. Many of the all abandoned plantations are used a library and museum now. Plenty of wild animal roam the land, and we still ride on horseback to get around and most people here are community farmers. Samuel talked about what he was saying and felt happy. Yeah, even the creeks, pond, and lake haven't been affected much by the abandon and this new age of technology. We work together to keep the air and the water clean. Et tout quand even longé pose and sat there just thinking and then said, sorry, Kush, my mind is all over the place. But start with our ancestor, Tabitha, whom we take our tribal name from, him and his wife Abba along with his children, 5 boys, and 6 girls, lived just a carte of a list of that small river we call the Bar in Lake Providence. Tabitha was a spiritual man, and Abba, his wife, was a seer, they both taught their children the way of Sabaoth. Liberté was the youngest, 5 foot, 8.5 inch tall, and weighed roughly 175 pounds. He had a deep love for Sabaoth and loved history. He was Timbu a very muscular young man, born in 3019. Liberté was also a poet and loved writing about the different things he saw in his life, mainly about the injustice of his people and his love for Sabaoth. One night when he was 16 years old, he took a long walk alongside Lake Providence because he couldn't sleep. Sitting down at the lake, he looked across it, looking at the fish jumping, and said, "Fishin'," so he took out a small flashlight and began to write. We as humans are all brothers, doesn't matter the color or creed. It's love that we need. Do we have to repeat? We all are brothers. There are many that hate, there are many who dispute who is the greatest. To me, it's not about color of skin, type of kin. Your decision on religion, it is surely not about politics. It's all about the amnesty. And searching for him is like fishing. Some get up early, about 5 in the morning, some go around noon, and some go late in the day, just to get away. It doesn't matter when you go. It's where you go and how you fish. Everyone has their style. Their method of fishing, but all have to be patient, just like when you search for the amnesty. Many come early, some come late. But once you get there, you receive your reward from the Lord. Those that don't fish don't know what they are missing. When you are sad, frustrated, angry, mad, or bored, try fishing for the will, the power, the salvation of the Lord. A Liberté was waiting, a messenger appeared before him. Une hour that it was ancient Phariji, a spiritual entity that we wakatilian believe guide or pass, the messenger first came to him as an elderly man. Why is it you can't sleep, young Liberté? HAS the spirit of Sabaoth prepared you for your journey. Liberté puzzled, what journey do you speak of? He just couldn't sleep and took a walk along the lake until he came across. Hey, how is it you know my name? Liberté asked as he pulled up his notebook and gathered his thoughts as he stood up. The messenger continued, the spirit of King Solomon is upon you. Sabaoth have blessed you with Solomon's wisdom, at, and soul. Like Elia, Elisha, and Kunloter, Sabaoth often used one man to get his people to see. You and your descendant, after you, will use word of wisdom, peace, and the sword. To destroy Sabaoth's enemy. Your waiting have reached the year of Sabaoth, and they rejoice in your word, for this reason, you are no longer. Khaled Liberté bu wanyenye que vu. The old man transformed into a wolf, Liberté shook his head and rubbed his eye as the man continued to speak, in 3 days, you will see me again in this form, and he will be your guide on a journey, for the next 3 days you shall perform the holy jeûne and bid your family farewell for they will not see you for 150 seasons. Know this, before you leave the state of Louisiana, you will endure many trial and tribulation to enhance your spiritual man as well as your physical body that will prepare you for your journey. Be not afraid, for Sabaoth will be with you along the way, no physical harm shall befall you. Quickly interrupting, Liberté smiled and said, how can a man live to be 150 seasons, sir? The ancient Pharisee said, you know that with Sabaoth, all things are possible, but it will not be you, but your blood and your spirit that shall return to Sabaoth's people, and this name shall be called Cush. With your blood, in seeing, you shall see more, and for hearing, you shall hear more. And with your spirit, you shall control the flesh, see with the eyes of Sabaoth, and teach otter to do the same. The old man smiled as he transformed again, behold, your wife. As he continued, an image of a beautiful woman appeared in a cloud of smoke. Your spirit are one, and the love you share will be forever, it will be remembered as an example of Sabaoth's happiness between man and woman. Liberté said curiously, wife. Liberté. 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 He heard a voice cry out, who is that? Liberté said as he turned around. It was his loving mother, Abba. It is past noon, you lay in bed as if you have nothing to do. Go fetch the water so I may water my garden. H.I.S. Fater, Tabitha, looked at Liberté and shook his head in anger. Liberté stood up in his bed and grabbed his notepad. He scrambled through the page and saw the poem fish. He rushed to get dressed and dashed out the door to get water for his mother's garden. He was also confused about what had happened. Was it a dream or vision from Sabaoth? Then he reached down to get the water out of the river, and as he reached into the water, an image of the wolf appeared in the water, hearing, in 3 days, make haste, he heard the voice of the messenger once again. Jeûne was a ritual performed by the Wakatilian. One would go without food or fast as you consecrate yourself to the Lord, by doing so, you are building up the spiritual man and lowering or resisting the physical man or your flesh. Flesh refer to your material or fleshy weakness and desire. The holy jeûne was more intense than a regular jeûne or fast, you spent the entire time in a room filled with smoke from earth that enabled you to see more and hear more. A Liberté looked back to see if there was indeed a wolf behind him, he said to himself, he must return and prepare myself for the journey. He grabbed the bucket filled with water and ran home, spilling water everywhere along the path. He reached home and ran into the house to his mother and father. Liberté said quickly and fiercely, I have seen the many faces of the ancient Pharisee, he was instructed to perform the holy jeûne for the next 3 days and he shall not see your face again after that, let us perform the holy jeûne together for. He shall need your guidance and all that you have talked me must be enforced. Upon explaining what happened to him, Tabitha's face and spirit changed and answered, so, it is. Liberté read from the Book of Kings, from the Ancient Torah, a book the Wakatilian believed contained the word of Sabaoth. After 2 days of training and fasting with his father, he spent 1 day in a holy jeûne with his mother and sibling. He knew they would not see one another again, with tears in their eyes but joy as well in their heart, for they knew Sabaoth called him to do great work in his life. On the 3rd day, around dusk, the wolf appeared to Liberté, with sun in his eyes, et bid his family farewell and left on his journey. Wanyenye que vu. Liberté turned around, his father was waving with tears in his eyes. Wanyenye que vu was in shock, for he had told no one of his new name as he slowly turned back around. His heart was filled with sad, for he knew he would never see his family again. Make me proud, my son, said Tabitha. With tears in his eyes, he replied. It will be so.